I don't know how to mute myself. We are recording, and at least you know Kellsey. How do I mute
this is my friend.
They can hear us talking.
And Kellsey and I had met, like on Facebook, but we really got to spend some time with each other.
But I can't.
Can you mute everybody and then I'll unmute?
Can you pause it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're good. Then Kellsey and I got to, are we still not muted?
You and I are not muted.
Okay.
So that's good.
I'll mute myself after I do the introduction. So anyway, Kellsey and I got to hang out some at Leaders Retreat last year. And the reason that I've asked her to do the call for us is because she has like crazy high PV consistently. And not only does she do a great job of getting customers, but she actually keeps them too. And so I think your PV runs between what, like 1,700 and 2,600 ordinarily. And I don't know if that equates to what, like 20 to 40 customers on a regular basis.
I know that if I look at my reports, it says I have 37 people that are on auto ship, but that includes ambassadors, I think, doesn't it?
I don't know. I've never really looked at it for auto ship. I just look at my customer report, so could be. I'll have to look up that one. But last year when we were at Leaders Retreat, Kellsey was just a silver. In fact, she just promoted to gold in June, but still qualified for Leaders Retreat just on PV alone. So that will tell you how high her PV has been. And have you already qualified this year?
No, I have 605, but I will most likely hit the PV that I need.
Right.
I will, if I hit 1750 PV, I will need to add a customer and an ambassador, or basically two people in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
But I do have two people, I have more than two people in the pipeline.
Right.
So
I have no doubt that you will make it, and I'm in about the same place on point. So, working with my team as well as myself to get some people added. So, okay. All right. Well, then, Kellsey, I'm going to just turn it over to you and let's get started because I don't want to waste any more time. And hopefully some people will be jumping on.
Okay. First, and I hope this is okay with you guys, but I would love to start with just a short prayer, if that's okay. Heavenly Father, I thank you because I absolutely believe that Plexus is a gift that you placed in my life to help my family with our health that we desperately needed. And I thank you that you've given me the opportunity to share that with others. And Lord, I pray that you would give me words tonight that will be helpful and that you will take from me words that are not. I pray that you would help me to recall anything that I may have thought of today and forgotten if you think it would be helpful. So we pray and ask that you would help us to do this work in a way that glorifies you and in a way that serves and helps others. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so Vicki had asked me what it is that I do as a regular part of my business that I have PV that's so high. And so I made some notes. And I think really honestly, the most important thing that I do, and I do this 5 mornings a week, Monday through Friday, is that I get up and I pray before I do anything else. And I pray for my customers, I pray for my ambassadors, and I have a whole list of potentials that I'm praying through. And the things that I'm praying are, Lord, first of all, please draw these people to you. Help them to know in their bones that they are loved. Help them to know that they are worth taking care of. And then I pray that for my people who are taking Plexus, I ask that God would help them to actually notice the difference that it's making. Because I find a lot of people will have all kinds of things that improve, but somehow they miss it because it's not the thing they're looking for. So one of my prayers is that God will help them to actually pay attention enough to be able to articulate to themselves and to others what is changing and improving. And I pray that for anyone who may have done it in the past and quit, that if Plexus would help, that God would bring them back. And some people have come back. And I pray for people who haven't done it yet, that if they haven't tried it yet, but if God knows that Plexus would be helpful to them, then I pray that he would give me favor with them and that he would bring them back. And that I just pray that God would bring me people that need Plexus and the help that it can bring, whether that is for their health, for their family's health, or for their finances. I want very much to help people. On that color personality test that has been around a lot, I am a screaming green. I really love to know information and why and how things work, but I am almost equally as strong of a yellow. And most of my personality is driven by wanting to help people. So my prayers really revolve around that. And I do believe that that's the most important thing I do every day of my work. And because my list has gotten so long, it's gotten overwhelming, I've divided people up into Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, so that I'm not praying through the entire list, which is front and back of a few pages now, but I'm just doing Monday people on Monday and Tuesday people on Tuesday and so on. The next thing is I post 5 days a week at least about Plexus, and I'm trying every day to post at least 4 posts. 1 of those is Plexus, and 3 of those are something else. So I try to post about my kids or my husband or food I'm eating or exercise I'm doing, because I also love CrossFit, and that's definitely something that I include in my pictures. But I also try to very regularly include articles that are information to help back up and grow people's understanding of why they would need Plexus, what gut health is, why it matters to anything else in their life, why blood sugar matters, why inflammation matters. I'll take a specific ingredient in a product and research it, and then I'll make a post with an article talking about that particular ingredient, why it's helpful for health. Because I'm a green and I love information, that works for me. I don't know if that works for everyone, because you may not be a green. So you have to work with who you are. You have to be consistent with who you are. There are some people who post things that are really fun. I have almost no blue. The blue, happy, fun, like, hey, let's go party, let's go to a costume party. I have almost none of that. So I'm too earnest for my own good. But I force myself from time to time to post outside my comfort zone and to try to be fun and to try to connect with other color personalities, because I don't just want to attract people that are just like me. So if you are not a green and if you are not into information, I challenge you to train yourself in the products and how they work anyways. Just like I'm trying to push myself to post things that are fun and to be more silly and lighthearted. We all need to grow, right? So I challenge you in that. And I think another reason, and this is a basic underpinning that I have, is that when people are willing to talk with us about their health, they are entrusting us with something very precious. And it is a privilege and an honor to be entrusted with information that's very personal and very intimate sometimes, that they may not tell anybody else about how their body is functioning. And the more we know and understand about how the products work, the more we can take care of them when they open up and are vulnerable in that way. So I have a high value for understanding how things work and for training myself on a regular basis to learn more about how things work and how I can help people better. So post 5 days a week, 4 to 6 posts a day. And I know that's a lot. If you can't do that, try to aim for 3, I think. 1 of them Plexus and 2 not Plexus. It's important that you not make people feel completely overwhelmed and drowned in all Plexus all the time. They will stop following you. They might stop following you anyways, but they will definitely stop following you if you only do Plexus. Another thing that I was challenged to do through an IPA group that I was in was to start adding new Facebook friends every week. And that is hard for me. That really is hard for me, but I suck it up and do it anyways, because the more friends I make on Facebook, the more people that I can help. So it's worth it. Whether it makes me uncomfortable or not, I'm not going to only do what is comfortable for me. So I try to friend new people each week. I don't always make it happen every single day, but I really do try to aim to make that happen every week. And sometimes I make friends with Plexus people. I'm strategic about that. I have a ton of Plexus people who have requested friends that I am not answering because I can't say yes to every single Plexus person and still pursue being Facebook friends with more than that. So I try to choose Facebook friends that are in my sidelines, who, if I have particular sidelines that I'm running with, then I want to be on pages with their team members. If I have people that I have seen that I respect, who have good information, I have requested to be friends with them or to at least follow them. So I am able to get more testimonies to post if I have more exposure to more Plexus people. So there's a balance between getting more Plexus friends and more friends that are not Plexus, because you want to be exposing more of, you want to be growing your business, and you can't do that if all your new friends are from Plexus. And one of the things that I also do is that I message people 5 days a week. So one of the things that often gets talked about as IPA is doing 5 messages to people that are not customers or ambassadors yet, and doing 3 follow-up messages with people who are already customers and ambassadors to you, and doing 1 thing a day where you're either training yourself or training someone else. And I really do try to aim to do that. And it's amazing. If you actually do that, business does start to grow. I'm not going to promise you that it's meteoric. I have not had the meteoric rise through the ranks that some people have. It took me 2 years to go gold. But I did not give up, because the other thing I wanted to encourage you guys was to have a long-term vision. Sometimes it's a slower road, but my husband says, even if it takes 10 years to really succeed at Plexus, if you really succeeded in 10 years, you'd still be light years ahead of where you would have been if you hadn't tried. So it's worth it if it takes 10 years instead of 2 or 3 or 4. And along the way, you're helping people the whole time. And that's worth it. That's worth it. So have a long-term vision. Don't be upset if stuff doesn't happen really fast. Not everybody grows fast. Also, when I message people, and I message 5 people a day that are not customers or ambassadors yet, not all of those messages are about Plexus. Some of those are just relationship building, because I highly prize and value my relationships with these people. And I want them to know that I want to encourage and support and care for them, whether we're talking Plexus or not. And I've had some people that, I had someone, here's a good example. I had someone who bought from me for about 5 months, kept telling me how much better she was feeling, and all of a sudden she dropped off the face of the earth. And I messaged her, and I messaged her, and I messaged her, and she really didn't respond. Lots of crickets, and she had stopped buying, and I didn't know why. And recently, she responded finally at some point to tell me that she was going through a divorce. And so for months, probably that wasn't recently, for about a year, I was just being her friend and being supportive. And she knew this whole time that I was doing Plexus, and I held a sip and see recently that she came to. And she ended up signing up for wholesale now that things are kind of under control again. So you don't know what's happening in people's lives. You don't know if the message you sent hit them in the middle of a time that they're just not ready to hear it. But maybe in a month or 2 months or 3 months, they're going to be in a better space. And they're going to be either more settled down and ready to engage in something new, or they're going to be more in need and aware of their need. And in the meantime, we just need to be their friends. We need to continue to love them and reach out to them, let them know that we are there and caring, whether we get crickets or not. I can't tell you how many people did not respond to me for months at a time, that I just, once a month, I would just send them something that said, hey, I'm thinking about you, praying for you today. If I knew they were struggling with something, I'd let them know I was praying for healing and for peace and hope for them. And it's very interesting. I've had some people who, after a year of those kind of messages, are finally reaching out to me. And even if they didn't, I still would have wanted to message because they're friends and I want to care for them. But I'm excited for them that they are finally taking steps towards getting healthier and finally coming to me to talk. And I had someone who has MS who I messaged her like 15 months ago, I think, with a testimony about MS because I knew she struggled with it. And I often will send people testimonies if I know they're struggling. And she did not respond at all. Total crickets. And I didn't know her very well, so I didn't follow up with her as much. But I was posting regularly, and at some point she reaches out to me and says, hey, I have a friend who's really struggling with her gut health. Would you mind if I connected you? Because I think you might be able to help her. I was just jaw to the floor that she wanted to refer her friend to me because I didn't think she was paying attention, but she was. And recently I sent her another testimony about someone with MS. And just tonight, 5 minutes before I got on this call, I sent her that testimony a month ago. 5 minutes before this call, she messaged me and said, yes, I want to talk. Can I call you next week? So don't give up. Have a long-term vision. Keep posting. Be consistent. And share testimonies with people you know are struggling, whether they respond or not. And support them as their friends. Find out what's happening in their lives. A lot of my messages say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I'm curious, what are you excited about right now? What's bringing you joy? And usually people will respond well to that. And I get the delight of learning what's bringing them joy and what they're excited about. And usually that leads to them asking me, well, what is bringing you joy? And that gives me the opportunity to say, you know, one of the things that's bringing me so much joy right now is that I'm working with a company that makes these supplements that are helping free people from so much physical suffering. And it's fascinating and amazing and exciting to watch their lives get better. It brings me so much joy. And that usually can lead to more conversation about Plexus. So I do message 5 people a day that aren't customers, but it's not always, hey, have you heard of Plexus? That didn't work very well for me. I tried it for about 6 months. but just continuing to care for people and invest in them has been much more fruitful, although it's taken a long time. So don't give up. And I would also say follow-up is so important. If someone buys from you, don't just let them get the packaging and read it and use that as instructions. You've got to email them or call them or whatever means you know is going to be best for them to pay attention and get them instructions on how to take the products. And if you don't know, find out. So find out how best to take the products and what the best recommendations are. So that you can tell them and give them a sense of what to expect. I send a very long email with an extraordinarily long list of all the things that could be a part of Candida Die-Off because I don't want them to be surprised. And I want them to say, oh, this might happen. And I find that that helps people stick around more because they know what to expect. And if they have something awful that is a part of their detox, they go back to that email and say, was this on here? And every once in a while, I get someone who won't read the email. And they'll end up on the phone with me at some point complaining about something. And I'll say, yeah, I wrote you about that, but let me remind you. So give email instructions. Make sure that you follow up with how they're doing. Like, don't just bless them and send them off into the wide blue yonder once they've started the products. You really need to follow up and say, hey, I was thinking about you, just wanted to check in. It's been a week or 2 weeks. How are you feeling? What are you experiencing with Plexus? What things are happening that are good? And what things are happening that are not good? Are things happening that you were hoping for? And if not, let's talk about that. Is that just because there hasn't been enough time? Is that because we need to change products? Asking those questions can be scary because you can be afraid to hear someone being upset, but it is far better to engage them in that place where they might be kind of afraid, and to say, hey, I'm here with you, and these things are to be expected, and if they're not, let's work on it. And if you don't know the answer to some of these things, there are so many people in your upline who do, that you can always find help. You can three-way conversation if you need to. I've definitely done that before with Becky. And also, don't just check up with them about Plexus. Check up with them about how they're doing in their life. How's their family? How, if they have something going on in their life that's difficult, be sure and I check in on that a lot. I think one of the reasons people stick with me is just because they feel like I'm invested in them. Also, I think I had a few other things to say, but I'm not going to go into all of them. One of the two, I think maybe two more things. One is, I've had people join my team and say they really want to grow the business. They really want it. And then they hardly ever post about it at all. And that's really shooting yourself in the foot. It's really shooting yourself in the foot to say, I'm not going to post. Because Plexus has a story that is so compelling, and it's changing thousands of lives on a daily basis. And you can't put that in just one or two posts. I've been putting that in one post a day, 5 days a week for 2 years, and I still haven't run out of stories to tell. So be telling the story so that people can know that this helps with pain, and it helps with blood sugar, and it helps with anxiety, and it helps with energy, and it helps with sleep. And if you can't name medical diagnoses, because you can't, don't do it, please. You can instead name symptoms. And sometimes naming the symptoms identifies more with people anyways than just a name of a medical diagnosis. Instead of saying, oh, do you have rheumatoid arthritis? You could say, here's a person whose story was that their hands hurt so much they were struggling to do their work anymore. Like, I have a customer who is a dental hygienist, and she has rheumatoid arthritis, and it's one of the things that Plexus is helping her with, and it's helped a lot. But if I was telling her story, I would say, I have a friend who's a dental hygienist, and her pain in her hands was crippling. It was making it so she couldn't do her job and her work without being in intense pain, because her hands would just hurt so much that it was almost paralyzing. And that connects more emotionally than just a diagnosis. And people who have rheumatoid arthritis, guarantee you, they're going to connect with that. And so tell the story. If you don't have a story of your own yet, that's fine. There's thousands of stories to tell. Go find them. Use your search bar. You don't have to go to a Plexus group. Get in your normal, regular Facebook mode and go up to the regular, normal Facebook search bar and just put in Plexus and migraines. Put in multiple sclerosis and Plexus. Put in rheumatoid arthritis or RA and Plexus. Anything you can think of, put it in, and you'll be amazed at how many things will pop up. There are a lot of things that are getting removed because compliance is digging their way back through old posts and removing stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff there, and it's worth doing the search to see what you can find. And I want to encourage you about compliance, that it's worth being compliant, because there are companies out there who have been slapped with millions of dollars of fines. And my daughter, she tells me on a regular basis that when she turns 18, she's only 10, but when she turns 18, she wants to sign up. She wants to be a Plexus ambassador because she loves to help people, and she sees how mommy is helping people. And I want Plexus to still be here when she gets to 18, so I will not be a part of causing problems for them by doing stuff the FDA says is a no-no. I might name symptoms, but I'm not going to name a medical diagnosis, and you don't have to get customers. It might take longer, but it is doing it in a way that will help Plexus stay around longer, and it's worth the time that it can take, I think. The other last thing I do is I always spend some time each day going through people's posts and commenting, because Facebook algorithms are such that if you don't comment on people's posts, Facebook may not show your post to them. So there's two purposes. I want my friends to know I'm invested in their lives, because I am, and I love them. And commenting connects with them far more than just hitting like or wow or sad. But also because the more people I comment on, the more people that Facebook will show my post to. So it's a twofold thing. I think that's everything I was going to say, Vicki. So I think we were going to open it up for questions if anyone had questions. And you can type it into the chat. I don't know if you've noticed at the bottom of your screen there should be a chat if you're on the computer, or you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, since we just have a couple of people on, it's fine to just unmute yourself. I'll just start. I have a couple of questions or comments that came up. Chelsea, tell us about stepping out of your comfort zone and starting to do videos and how that's worked for you.
It's funny. Actually, doing videos is not out of my comfort zone. I used to be in ministry, and I would get up in front of hundreds of people sometimes at meetings and talk about scripture and give talks. So I'm really okay doing that. What's funny is that it's the messaging that is so hard for me, because my personality, if you've ever studied the Enneagram, I'm a helper. But the greatest fear of the helper is that people will misunderstand what you're trying to do, and they will reject you as a person because of it. So I'm constantly, daily dying to that fear that when I reach out to someone, they're going to misunderstand my motives. And they're going to think that in my head, they're just a dollar sign, and not understand that in my head, they really are a friend that I want to help. So that really is something that God has been using to shape me so much this last 2 years, is choosing to die to that fear every day and to step out and message people anyways. But I do Facebook Live, and I do regular videos and post those. And it's funny because some people love those, and then there's a whole crew of people who don't watch them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom won't watch my own videos. She loves me. She's one of my ambassadors, but she will not watch my videos. But my millennial friends love videos, and they would rather watch a video than read a post any day. Now, I would rather read a post, but I'm not a millennial. I'm in my 40s. So
Right. Exactly. Well, try being in your 60s and see how hard it is to connect with the millennials. And my friend Deborah here told me at one time that she didn't watch the videos that I post on our team page. So
thanks for hanging so long tonight, Deborah, because I know I'm not concise.
Okay, so you made the comment about the algorithm. And, something I've just noticed in the last week, because I'm doing some really, really intensive training with my team. And so I have about 11 different threads going on with the training at different stages of it, and it's eating my lunch. But so I really haven't been posting as much or commenting as much. And if you pay attention, you can see very quickly how things drop off. Mm-hmm. I think this afternoon I was even thinking about Cindy Latham talking about vital biome, and that, like, I think it was vital biome, you'll know, that even, if you miss a few days,
yes, that's true.
That you really have to take it every day to maintain. And so the same thing is pretty much true with the posting stuff. What other questions did I have written down? I loved, I'm not going to call them scripts because they were too sincere to be scripts, but I really do love the way that you, especially your follow-up, because I think that's, I'm trying to train, and I'm trying to even learn myself. I guess I have learned myself, but now I'm trying to train to not just say, hey, just checking to see, how you're doing. The other question I asked, though, because I've always wondered about this, is you said that you give them a long list of things that can go wrong. or not go long, but that are detox. So do you send that in the original message when they order?
I try to get on and check when their package is going to be arriving.
Right.
And I will send them oftentimes. I'll start the email saying, hey, I just checked on your tracking. It looks like this is going to arrive tomorrow or today. And so I wanted to be sure you had your instructions. And then I'll say, hang with me. This is going to be long, but everything in here is written because it can help you. So please hold on.
And do you do that by email or messenger?
Oh, email. It's way too long to be a messenger.
Okay.
But I am funny. I will send what I call my instructions in detail, and I will follow it up with instructions in summary. So I'll send 2 emails. I don't do this every single time. It depends on the person. But if I have someone that I just really don't think is going to read the detailed one, I will send them a shorter summary, and I will, especially if it's the triplex, I will attach a triplex start schedule that talks about doing slim for a certain number of days and then adding in BioCleanse and then adding in ProBio. I find
I always send a chart because I think people look at that and they process it visually rather than the reading. But specifically about the detox symptoms or whatever, I've kind of tended to go towards sending that on like day 3 when they kind of gone into it, because I find that people, it alarms them if you say, okay, you know, these are things that could happen, and they're like, wait. But then again, you know, I've also had some people that like day 1 had a problem and weren't expecting it, you know, so just wondered what your take was on that.
I couch that with, I will say in the email, before you read this, I want you to know you will not have every single one of these things. You will probably only have a few. Some people will only have one. But but I have noticed after doing this over time that every single person's journey with this looks completely different. And so these are the symptoms I have walked with people through. And if 1 or 2 of these happen to you, I want you to know that that's normal and to be expected. Worse before better is to be expected. And I will say, for myself, I felt swimmy in the back of my head. I had headaches. I had sleep disruption. And after a few weeks, because die-off can happen in waves as things get deeper, I experienced horrible seasonal allergy flares. And they were awful. But I finally got past those. And I will say, my husband, he didn't experience any die-off for like 3 weeks, whereas I started day 2. So everybody's timeline looks different. And so I always err on the side of saying too much, Vicki. This is something Becky's always getting on me for. But I find, and maybe this is just because we attract people that are like us, that my people want information. I want information. I'm driven by information. I make decisions based on having enough information. And a lot of my friends are like that too. I went to a private liberal arts college that was full of smarty pants people, and they are not satisfied with anything less than everything you can tell me. So that made it work for me because of my population. That's a very real possibility.
That could be your target. So Elise is asking in chat if everyone will experience some die-off.
In 2 years, I have only had 2 people who did not experience much die-off. And one of them, I told her, I wonder what would happen if you went up to 3 ProBio 5 instead of just 2. And all of a sudden, she hit vertigo city. And it was bad.
So do you recommend, is the schedule that you put people on just 2 ProBios? Because I know certain people like Felicia Jasper, she always tells people you need to be on 4 she works them up, but she tells them, you know, you got to take 4 for this to work.
I tell people that there's kind of like a list of symptoms that are common for people who have candida overgrowth.
Right.
And I will say
Yeah.
If you've been taking 2 ProBio 5 for at least a month, for at least 2 months, and you haven't seen any change in any of these things, you need to go up. You need to try. And I want them to stay at 3 for a month before they go up to 4. And I know that some people will throw you up at 4 within the first week. But here's my concern with that. Our liver has to do the work of processing out all of the toxins that Candida releases as it dies. And some people's livers are not in good shape, and they can't handle it. So there are people who will go to the doctor or the hospital and tell them they're taking Plexus, and they will take blood tests, and their liver will look awful.
Yes.
Because it is freaking stressed out because it's trying to do all this work, and it's too much. So those people absolutely need to be on X Factor Plus. They absolutely need to be supporting their liver. If their liver can't handle 1 ProBio 5 a day, they need liver support.
Right. We are down to less than 1 minute. Kellsey, thank you so much. This was really, really good, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And I will get the recording to you, and it was just super, super good. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Deborah. Bye.
Good night.